Hello, and welcome to Royale Without Cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic and the unknown of Hollywood and foreign cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Leonardo Miranda, Tomás Ferreira,
Hey.
hello man, and Miguel Aido, who sadly couldn't join us today, for he is sick.
Exactly. He's taking the sauna today. He's
Taking
not
the sauna,
coming.
sweating
Just
in
breathing those
bed.
hot airs of Mexico.
We are three filmmakers in an informal dialogue with a film review each episode. With a wrap-up of 2022, we're opening a review series looking back at some of last year's films that might be possible Oscar contenders or simply top-of-the-talk festival darlings. Our Oscar segment will run through January, February, and March 2023. As part of our Mexican Quinceañera, reviews in both English and Portuguese will be available for different listeners. Today's episode will be in English and we'll be having a go at Alejandro Iñarritu, Bardo, A False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths. Portuguese speakers can head to the Portuguese labeled content section. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, or simply give us a neat little like. That's how our podcast can grow ever more groovy. Now sit back and enjoy the show, have some fun.
Enjoy the show. Take care of yourself. Be in the Mexico arena. Bardo, A False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths, or in proper español, Bardo, Falsa Crónica de unas cuantas verdades, is a 2022 Mexican epic black comedy drama co-written, co-composed, edited, produced, and directed by Alejandro Iñarritu. The film stars Daniel Jimenez Cacho, and it follows a journalist-documentarian who returns to his native country of Mexico and begins having an existential crisis in the form of dreamlike visions. It is Iñárritu's first film to be fully filmed in Mexico since Amores Perros, a film made 22 years ago. Bardo premiered at the 79th Venice International Film Festival in competition for the Golden Lion, who was briefly released in theaters and then streamed on Netflix on December 2022. The film received mixed reviews from critics who praised the performances, the cinematography, and direction, but criticized the writing and runtime. Nevertheless, it received a nomination for Best Cinematography at the 95th Academy Awards. The critics surely had their say. Now Royale Without Cheese takes the final bite. What did we think, gentlemen?
Alejandro.
Alejandro Iñarritu.
Impress me, Alejandro.
You know, he's sexual director. He talks like this, the power of cinema. He's in between, what's his name? Jodorowsky and the other. Mexican directors like to be surrealist and magical realism. They like this. The power of cinema. They like to use their P's in a strong way and open their mouths.
I do. His voice is awesome. I love listening to him talk.
He's the sexy, along with Cronenberg. They have the sexiest voices. I just want to sleep with their voices telling me a bedtime story. So the little ducks went to the room, and the mother duck went with him to the pond.
I mean, I've only seen. This is strangely enough. This is also only the second film I've watched from Iñárritu.
Oh, really?
Just like McDonough, I've only watched 2 films, but Iñárritu has more films. I watched Birdman and this one.
Never seen The Revenant.
Nope.
Oh, I've seen the amount of times I saw Babel in high school because of geography class.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's why I've never really watched Amor Perros and Babel. And what is the 21? I don't
21
know.
grams. I saw 21 grams, Babel, Revenant, Birdman, and now this.
Yeah, okay, you are more of an expert. But those three, those types of narratives of coincidence,
Oh, you don't like them?
I don't know. They just rub me the wrong way. They feel very high school as well, like that. High school teachers love that shit. They're like, oh, see, everything is connected, man.
Connected.
Well, your actions can have terrible consequences.
I never saw it that way.
But I've never watched them, so I don't know.
But it's interesting, in the first part of, let's say, his first half of feature films with Babel and those films. It's more about the subjectivity of point of view and how randomness and coincidences grab different lives together. And I think from Birdman on, he's really got a taste for wide shots and slow pen movements and slow traveling forward movements, and having where the subjectivity of the character has gone on to this place of exploring dreams and exploring memory, and how the camera translates that. And that's what I think is the greatest attribute of this film. um, is how we go, and is how we enter in this kind of flow of consciousness between dreams and reality, and the reality becoming dreams, and how you're ever so present in this dreamlike surrealist reality. That is, I think, how I interpret it, these flashbacks before dying. He is in the coma, and the whole film is that, is the coma state where this director, this journalist, is reliving his own life in various moments. And I find the way he shoots that, the way he interprets that on the whole, is the most interesting thing, what keeps me grabbed to the film in a general way. I think that's his greatest attribute. Iñárritu is actually one of the directors that awoke me to thinking of cinema in my first kind of thought, in my early thoughts of thinking film language and film form. He was the one, along with Nolan, in the mainstream kind of mainstream/independent scenario or stage of things. He was the one who, in my early days of thinking and being interested about cinema, made me think of cinema in a different way, in the way of language. And with Birdman specifically, it made me think that. When I went to see Sir Birdman for the first time years ago, I wasn't even in film school yet, neither of us. Just a surprise of seeing something that was so daring within the mainstream language. It is a studio film, I think, so it was a whole long take scenario, and it was the first one, not the first one to do it, but the first one to kind of bring that out again. That fascination with the long shot, and it was just wow, this can be done. That's kind of the idea. And I mentioned Nolan because, with Memento was another one who made me think about my early days of editing and the power of telling stories visually.
Yeah,
So
that one, the power of structure really comes through in Memento. How you structure your film. With Iñárritu, I don't know. Birdman, I loved at the time, as you were saying as well. It's a in-your-face film in that you can't ignore the formal aspects of it. It's a long take. It's very show-offy, and I loved that at the time. And I think it made sense with the theatrical aspect, the context of being like a theater.
And the unrestness of it, he's trying to bring this whole thing to life, so you're always awake. He always seems kind of on drugs or something, so you're always
it's the urgency.
It's the urgency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But here I was a bit more. I mean, I respect it a lot of the times, and I was actually very impressed with the seamless. Like there's a flow to it between the reality and unreality, to the point it's like you're never quite sure what is going on. It just seems like he creates his own world where there is no distinction between reality and fiction and fantasy. But I think it kind of is ruined by the end when it's revealed that he's dying and he's in a coma, and that these images we've been watching are sort of a translation of his synapses going off as he's dying or almost dying or whatever.
I see.
I think it kind of ruins the uniqueness of the film that I was so impressed with, like this new way of approaching storytelling, like creating a different world. Whereas with that reveal, it sort of is, it's very banal. It's very, okay, it's just a dying man's ideas.
To me, I understand what you mean, but to me, I think it still remains, as that film you described, that it's trying to find this new way of approaching a narrative. Not that it hasn't been done before, but it's done in his very own way, let's say, So this intermingling of memories and dreams between fiction and reality, even if you have at the end the death, which at first I felt like, I guess like you felt, like really dying, and like yet again, Banshees did this, now this film is doing this, like death seems to be the ultimate finale. He needs to die. But at the same time, the film doesn't leave that style. You know, when he's presented as dying, we are still within that language. Nothing becomes too real again or too chronological again. So I don't hold it against the film. It's just a detail at the end. Like I thought, okay, fine. It's still this film to me overall. You know, it's even if it is used as a justification, like this is why he's going out of the whole of the film is the way it is. I don't hold it. I don't blame the film for. I don't hold that as a thing that spoils it for me, personally.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it spoiled a little bit. Just, I don't know. Feels too very easy. It's like, okay, you just watched a bunch of weird shit.
But it continues being weird shit. But it continues being weird shit.
A little bit, but it's also, yeah, I guess. I don't think it saves it, that it's still a little weird. Although I don't remember exactly what happens after. When it's the reveal, I watched it. I haven't rewatched it.
He kind of goes into this dreamland where he's basically, in my understanding, he's wandering, trying to find the light, you know, the way into heaven or the afterlife, if you will, and he's saying goodbye to his loved ones.
It's still translating like the thing in his mind. That's what I mean. Like that, the whole scene of him in. Seems like a seems like he's in an afterlife of some sort.
No, because now you understand it has the afterlife. So now you understand what this is all about. So now, if anything, this is the moment in the film where
he told us that.
Yeah, he told us that.
If he hadn't told it, I could have
before you were like just going with the motion of it.
Yeah, exactly. I was going. My understanding was sort of this is a portrait. This is like a portrait that is very creative, and then suddenly it's not a portrait. Or an autobiography that is very creative. It's a translation of someone's dying mind. I think the film could have worked without him explaining that it is a translation of a dying mind. I think that's more of my point. That we didn't need to know that. He could have.
But that's a good point, because I now imagine, I think that if he hadn't shown us him dying, and if we suddenly passed on to this scene of him just walking in the desert, saying goodbye to his family, you would understand that moment, or you would have some semblance of what is really going on, that he's dying. True. And you don't need to show literally the scene of him in bed with the whole medical apparatus. Yeah, it's not a huge flaw, but I think it would make the film better. Yeah, that's I can see that.
It doesn't ruin the film for me, because I wasn't that fond of the film. I think I respect it more than I enjoy it, is for me.
Well, tell us about it. Tell us what you don't like about the Mexican fella. Yeah, I told you it was going to be political. I told you it was going to be political, and you said, I don't know.
I don't know if it's political. It is political. Yeah, it's very much so. I don't know. What I remember is saying I didn't think that, but I believe I probably did say that. I want to say I actually like Iñárritu. Like listening to him talk, he's a fascinating person to listen to talk. You sent that video of him talking about I love those videos of the filmmakers talking about films that inspire them. All that shit. And I say this because my preconceived notion of Iñárritu was different. I thought he was a bit annoying, and I would have hated to listen to him talk. Just seemed like a pretentious asshole a little bit. But then I listened to I was being unfair to him. He seems like a nice guy, like a perfectly interesting fella. But I think this film just is a little insufferable at times. And it's the comedy sometimes
doesn't work. It flat out doesn't work to me. But some people might like it. Maybe it's a question of taste. I don't. It's like the baby coming out of a vagina. I mean, I'm like,
come on, man. He wants to go back inside. The world is too fucked up.
Oh god.
Oh man, come on.
It just seems too literal or something. It's missing something,
Missing.
Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking this should be funny, but somehow it isn't.
It's like I saw a Letterboxd review from someone mentioning that they hate that sometimes these auteurs, these like big auteurs, think they are funnier than actual comedians. And so they try to make like these jokes that are very, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I see what that person was getting at. Like I watched Triangle of Sadness, and I feel the same. It's like these very pompous guy who's like, oh, I'm making a critique of society, trying to make comedy out of that. And like, I'm sorry, it's not that funny. You are not coming across as that funny for me because it feels like watching someone coming from a place that they think they're above the
Uh-huh.
comedy,
I see.
but it doesn't translate. Maybe I'm
To
wrong.
to
Maybe
be
it's
fair, I left more with Triangle of Sadness.
actually I
Inside
don't know.
left
Yeah,
than
yeah,
I left with this
probably
one.
two, probably two. I don't know.
Yeah, an
Although,
appreciation, but I can see their moments feel a little bit flat. Some other moments.
but I think overall I liked Bardo more.
I really
And
like the discussion. I'm not talking about
yeah,
Triangle of
yeah, we
Sadness.
can talk about Triangle of
I
Sadness
really
too.
like the discussion about money and paying or not paying for the dinner. I thought that was very interesting. The simple discussion about, and then him at the elevator. No, no, you don't understand.
I just
The
think
door closing.
like the characters
That
are
was
too
fun.
insufferable. Like there's not a I don't think there's a single character
But
beyond
that's the thing. I
I
think they are
guess like
insufferable. It's impossible. It's impossible not to feel them as insufferable because all of them are fucking insufferable.
yeah. But it feels
It's in
like
their nature.
a cheap shot that is easy because like yeah, everybody thinks these type of people, like this type of rich person that is very superficial, they are
Mm.
insufferable. But even the woman who's the working class hero who's like who turns from the
Seems
maid,
insufferable. Yeah.
yeah, from the maid into the queen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she's insufferable too, and it seems like his perspective is just everybody sucks. We're all dogs. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess, but I don't. I like when films are a bit more,
Nuanced.
yeah,
Ambivalence.
more empathetic towards someone, like to
The moderate. The
not
moderate,
even moderate, because even then, like what I'm asking is not really moderate. I'm saying, yeah, the rich people can suck. At least give me like a normal human
A
being who's a
redemption
working
character.
class
Okay.
who's good, you know? Like
But
at least I can connect there.
wouldn't that be still in the obvious vein? Like the rich are bad, the working class is good.
I guess. I
I
mean,
guess what sense that what you're trying to find was more there's good and bad in both classes, in both people. Because
no, what
people
I'm
are
saying
people.
is
There's good and
if you're
bad.
gonna like not be nuanced, like I'm not asking
Ah,
for
okay, okay.
nuance. I'm saying if you're gonna do that, like please give the audience something. Don't just make a film for
Yeah.
Cannes or the people at Cannes or Venice or whatever who are all rich assholes already, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
for them to feel superior about it. Oh yeah, like I guess that working class woman is a piece of shit too.
Jesus
Like we're
Christ.
all shitty, man.
Jesus,
Like I
yeah.
don't know. It just
Yeah.
I don't know, didn't really care for it.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh my God, I feel so much better now that I'm watching this film. My position is validated.
It's the radical chic that Truffaut accuses Godard. I feel like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
applies in that film a little bit. Not even. Actually, radical chic is different. Just feels like a misanthropic type of thing.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I'm making fun of rich people. You're
But I
all,
am on myself.
yeah.
But anyway,
All
going
right,
back to
back.
Bardo, I think the first half of the film is the most interesting and one where he has the most control of the elements because I like films that are balanced. You see, because you're always trying to find balance, never to be one extreme completely or the other, and so. In a film that is trying to have a certain narrative vein, while all the while being experimental with the flow between dream and reality, I think the first half is more solid in that sense, where you get a sense of what are the constants and what are the variables. So you have a sense of the constants, the family, himself as a troubled character with his ego, and who is he as an artist? Where does he stand between basically this is a film about borders between fiction and reality, between America and Mexico. Where does he stand? Is he more American than Mexican? He's more Mexican than American. It's kind of a question mark as a person and an artist. And I think those difficulties of him of trying to find himself and what he want to say and what represents him as an artist, it's more fleshed out in the beginning, while in the second half he veers off into too many pointers. He goes into Hernando Cortez, he goes into his mother, he goes into what else do we have there? We have a lot of events
Yeah, we have a
basically.
lot of
We
things
have
going
missing
on.
people in Mexico who seem to be missing yearly, a lot of missing cases, and he kind of shows that through the allegory of people falling on the middle of a big busy street in Mexico to just start falling down, and he finds himself alone calling his family, and the sun goes down, and it just feels like you come into these scenes who are very short and seem to be representative of a bigger allegory of what's politically and socially happening in Mexico, but it just feels too much. You come into a scene, you go out, you come to another scene, you go out, you're coming in, you're coming out, and there's no waiting to it, so that's how the latter half of the film feels to me, because what really holds me in, it's not just the visuals, but the character, the actor, who also played, I think, the priest in Bad Education. He's a great actor. He in the dialogue with him, he's so charismatic and so interesting to follow that he really carries this film through this very hectic style, that is always moving between dream and reality. So you really want to see him and his philosophy. He's so interesting to listen to. When he's having this little chat with the pompous American, that he's going to present this reenactment of the Mexicans and the American-Mexican war, the celebration, and he's having this little argument of what happened to them. Really, celebration? It wasn't celebration. It's we lost. You bought our land. It's kind of humorous and at the same time serious. You feel the tension and you're enjoying it. It's very gripping. And you're behind his character, but at the same time you do question him. I think that's what's so savory about the first half, is that you're questioning what's his philosophy, what's his angle as an artist, filmmaker, artist, documentarian. Does he really care about the people he represents, or is he more interested about self-ingratiating himself, his ego in these award ceremonies type parties or scenarios, where he just looks into these themes that seem important to the people in his class, because the argument that the film seems to make is that he's of someone who really someone who belongs to high middle class. He hides himself in the country that received him well, like America, and that he spent most of his time in 20 years of his life. So in a certain way he feels more American than Mexican. But because there is this misplacement of his identity, he's been 20 years abroad, he somehow wants to refine his true identity in Mexico. So somehow, being someone who is so high in the class chain, he feels like he needs to go to find depth. He needs to go where the quote unquote this is not what I think, but maybe the poorer classes are, where the bread of each day is. I need to go there, like to be important, to gain some kind of depth. And I think that's what the argument that the film seems to give, is that this will give me importance as a filmmaker. I don't know if that's what you think, but that's what I take away from the film. That's what the film is trying to, in terms of critique of the protagonist.
Yeah, critique,
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe. Yeah, the film is critical of the protagonist.
It's an ambiguous position. I think that Iñárritu might see himself in him.
It feels this is obviously about himself.
Yeah.
It's not even of a need. There's not.
He's
even
very similar to. He looks like him.
He's clearly trying a self-critique. At the same time, he's trying to explain why he is the way he is, I guess, or what. Like, it feels like a film that, for his inner circle, in a sense, like maybe this is some fucking discussions that he's been having with people that have been accusing him of, you're serving
He used to work on radio and then he transitioned to film. So maybe there's a similarity between working on TV and going on to film, even if it is documentary.
Yeah.
And there's a root of reality in here that we see in these award shows. There seems to be that the Americans like to validate the little ones, the minorities, what they think
he realizes that. Like, he clearly understands that he's being used as a tool.
Yeah, and it feels almost meta in that sense, that the film is kind of approaching this very present political correctness issue.
It's not even. I don't call it political correctness. It's nothing to do with political correctness. It's
you don't think so?
No.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
Like, what is like? I don't see it as political correctness. It's just they're using, they want to achieve something, which I don't know what in the context of the film it is.
I'm talking. Well, I'm thinking Oscars. That's kind of the mirror image of the Alethea Award that he
I
receives.
guess, but like, I don't know if it's political correctness and
Mm.
I don't know, like, why do you say that? Why political correctness?
It just seems that you're giving the minority, or the immigrants, the Mexicans, the Chinese, the Koreans, the award is to give a pat in the back and to see we are good too. We Americans, we don't treat them bad like we seem to to treat. Or when you nominate Black Panther for best
I
film, I'm
guess
like,
I see what you mean.
I mean, it seems like a move. We're not really doing it for the storytelling. It's nothing against the minorities. I'm not putting myself in that situation. It's really about, let's see them as movies, wherever they come from, either being American or
We're talking
Chinese or
about
whatever.
different things here, but
Okay, are we?
I wasn't talking about that. But even then, like I don't care. Like Black Panther being nominated was silly, but doesn't
But
matter.
the thing, I see that has like some kind of strategy from the award board to make seem the industry like diverse and all that, and
But I would rather
it isn't.
like I prefer forced diversity than no diversity. So like I don't care. It's award shows for me don't matter that much. Like,
But it seems like a farce. Like,
but like, have you watched the films that have been nominated before? From white people,
Yes.
they're also garbage a lot of times.
True,
So like
true,
it doesn't
hands
matter.
down, hands down. But the thing is, but that's what I'm trying to. That's within all the same bag of discussion. Like, if you're going to, god damn it, it's like
hitting it.
it's that thing. It's that thing. Like, they come to you and they show those tribute videos, movies. Oh, we love them and shit and storytelling,
Of course.
and to defend it. And I'm like, dudes, if you really defend like good, interesting storytelling, then do it. Don't come around with these freaking strategies to promote some. And it's on the and this is on the films that buy off their campaigns, whether they're being white or whether it's for diversity. Just have this one single approach where the main interest is because the films have merit. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay, but you're
But
very.
it doesn't. It seems idealistic.
Yeah,
It is
that's
idealistic.
completely idealistic and like garbage.
I wish.
Oscars are just like they're a corporate shit.
They're a
Like,
show. They're a TV show.
It's a show. It doesn't matter. It's insignificant. Like,
But the thing
end
is,
of the day.
people look at it, and it's like,
of course, yeah, they've always
oh,
looked
but
at
it's
it.
the Oscars.
But like the reality is that movies stand the test of time not because they won Oscars or not. Like,
True.
it doesn't really matter. I don't think. At the end, for me, it's just fun to talk about the Oscars because it's fun to complain about them being stupid. But
Yeah.
like, if I see,
But the thing is, they also have good films in their lineup.
yeah, of course.
It's
Especially,
like,
I think this year
it's
is a
impossible
very
not to have
strong
some
one.
good films, so some
Yeah.
strong films in their lineup, But didn't they have those films where like, I don't know what this is doing here. It seems like, and I clearly can't see this is a move or
Yeah,
this is something
obviously.
that it's to make a point. And that is the thing that bugs me. That's all I'm saying. The idea that one film is there to make a stand on something. It's not because of the storytelling or the prowess. And
My point is that when it's like a bad film, but with diversity and representation, like Black Panther, let's say, people notice it and start complaining and, oh, it's only there because it's forced. It's not a good movie. But when it's just a random fucking Winston Churchill biography, but
Don't say
white
anything.
guy, nobody says anything because, of course,
That's
like it's,
true.
people just assume, oh yeah, of course it's an Oscar film. It's like, no, it's garbage. It
Yeah,
doesn't
but
matter.
that annoys me too. You see, that's what I'm trying to drive at. I'm annoyed by both
Okay,
things.
Yeah. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the general
No, of course. I was just trying
response.
to
Yeah.
find the common ground. What I'm trying to say really. I'm trying to
Of
clarify
course,
that.
ideally. I mean, they should
I'm not-
just
I'm not
put you in
against
charge, Tomas. They
Just
put,
no, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to clear out my point of view. What I was explaining when in the beginning. Sometimes I'm against diversity. I'm against the phoniness of it all.
yeah, but like
every angle of the phoniness.
it's inherently phony. The awards. It's
Yeah,
like
I'm just thinking this could not be funny. But I guess
I was watching a video from a YouTuber called Be Kind Rewind. She was doing about the Andrea Riseborough.
Reynolds.
No,
Risenborough, yeah.
the one, the whole controversy around it.
Yep.
and she was then explaining like the process of getting your film or whatever, getting a nomination. And the whole thing is so like, just for you to send the film for the Academy to watch it, like you have to submit it to a website or something like that, and you have to pay like 20K just for that.
Jesus,
which is insane.
Christ.
So the point that the YouTuber was making is that like independent films are immediately like shun off from this most of the time,
unless they have like a studio distributor or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So and even then, like the To Leslie, it has like a distributor, but it can't compete like the same way that After Sun probably couldn't compete either.
But it's there, so they bought their way in, right?
No, what I mean is that word of mouth sometimes is also like strong enough. Like, for example, Andra Riseborough was through her fucking famous friends just talking about it very forcefully. But it worked, like, good for her. It doesn't bother me that much. And probably something similar with Paul Mescal, where it was more the merit of the performance and the whole, like, he's a guy who's been rising up in the media, like he's very popular right now. So I guess like that also helped. But I don't know if the distributor did manage to pull the fucking 20K to submit it or not.
Did you watch After Sun?
Not yet.
Eventually. Are you interested in After Sun?
I mean, it seems good. Seems cool.
Okay. I was just thinking about that thing that you said once. Oh my God. Again, parents and trauma and children.
When did I say that? Do you know more of things I say than I do?
I do. I keep
keeping
log.
tabs.
I keep tabs. I know this.
Yeah, no, that sounds like something I would say, yes.
Yeah, I know you. There's an ownership over this friendship. I know stuff.
I assume maybe I said that in the context of like film school films. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, perhaps.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was just something I remember you said once. But yeah, in terms of Bardo, that was the first half felt more consistent in that regard.
Yeah.
Of the interiority of the character, and then I think the second half lost itself a bit. And I find that the thing of him speaking without speaking was a gimmick that kind of annoyed me. I don't know how you felt about it. I couldn't quite touch what was the point of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't bother me that much. It's over.
It didn't bother me much, but as I was thinking, okay, what does he mean by this? What is he using it for? I was like, I don't know. I can't find it feels interesting because it comes at you like, okay, there's something different here, because it brings in such a whole different acting dynamic, because the other actress is supposedly hearing him, and they address it almost in a a meta way. Stop that, you're not moving your mouth, and it just feels like, okay, so what does this mean? And then the mother mentions it again, and I'm like, what does this mean? What is I'm not sure. I feel like I should be getting it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm dumb.
I think I might be stupid. Like, that's all right.
Maybe on a third watch.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I'm gonna watch it many more times in my lifetime, to be honest. I don't know, the film, like, it is very interesting. Like, the beginning I was a little, oh my God, this is gonna be this shit. Like, with the fucking, him swimming through the metro. First, like, the beginning with the baby, and he wants to go back inside. That immediately annoyed me. Then he's at the metro, and he starts swimming.
That didn't annoy me. That I liked.
I don't know. I thought he looked ugly first.
Ugly.
Very bright, very, I don't know. And even the first shot of him jumping, all right, 2 jumps, all right.
Okay, 2 jumps warrants you an okay. 3 jumps warrants this film bad. It's obviously a reference to 8.5.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah. It's like Spielberg making The Fabelmans. It all, like, not every filmmaker should do something like that. Like, make autobiographical film in that vein. And I don't know if Iñárritu has quote unquote earned his own 8.5. I don't know.
What would earn him that? A greater career, like more movies, or what is it?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what
you haven't seen much of him. This is the second one you see, so
exactly. So maybe it's just his films. I don't know. It's just they seem
Pretentious.
not pretentious. They just don't seem that interesting. Like they seem like they are like declaring themselves important, but I don't know.
Mm.
It's like they have that feel of this
Maybe it's
is,
just the feel. Maybe it's just the feel they have.
and I felt that very much with Bardo.
Yeah, I can see that. It's not my favorite of his because I think exactly in the second half, he really goes on the verge of becoming pretentious. Because the second half is so full of pointers, of voyages to other places in time and in his mind of what he did. I mean, literally a pile of indigenous people dead, and at the top of it, you're going to talk with Hernando Cortes and discuss politics. It's just, oh, God. It's not nuanced at all. It's just you see what you get, and and then I don't know. It's difficult sometimes to I mean, you respect the daring of it. Oh, you
Yeah,
made this
exactly.
thing.
It's a
You
very
made this
daring
thing
film,
happen.
you know.
Not everything their film there's to do this visual, but at the same time, there's this underlying, especially in the second half, because you lose the family for a while, and you lose the constant and the constants. Let's say that make the story have a one narrative line that goes throughout the film, and from that narrative line, you feel the evolution of character, or you feel a problem being addressed. From a certain moment on, you leave the whatever conflict there was, and you're just going through some other places, and he feels lost. He's trying to help someone in the middle of the street who falls and says she doesn't want to be helped. She has been, she has disappeared, and then people start falling, and then you have the Hernando Cortez case, and it's a bit much, I think, to do all of those without some kind of a constant thread, because it's a balance. You can have the randomness, you can have the ambiguity, but at the same time, you need to have something that
Yeah. I
holds
mean,
it together.
because like he's trying to bring the history of Mexico
Yeah,
into it.
and nothing against it. I find it super
Yeah,
interesting.
incredible, but it's still kind of narcissistically placing himself in those contexts, and
Maybe the whole point of the narcissistic placing himself, is very much I am intently putting this guy in the center of it, because that's how he thinks of
I think
himself.
very
He wants to address these old problems,
very much
but at the
so.
same time, he wants to talk about himself. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I think that's the point, but it's an annoying one.
It's
Like, it's
yeah.
like I get it. You are
Maybe yeah.
criticizing yourself in the sense that you are inserting yourself in these situations, and you understand the complexity of your position as this guy between these two
These
worlds. And like when the TV presenter confronts him in very direct terms, telling him like almost essentially saying you're a pawn to the Americans and they're using you, and you're all right with it because it brings you this stature. I think that's Iñárritu like confronting himself and almost saying like I understand the complexities and the critiques that are maybe thrown my way, but at the same time, like it reads a little like still defending yourself and like, no, but I'm not bad. I'm a good guy. I don't know. It's a tough film to discuss because feels super personal. Like
Yeah, it has many layers of
exactly.
realities, so many places to go. It's difficult to go everywhere and read it, but and then difficult to find redeemable qualities in him. But I guess that I imagine that he starts with good intentions in wanting to address these social and political realities in his films. This is the character of Silverio in his documentary films. But in the whole way, I mean, but then the intentions are good, but then it then seems that in the finality of making these films and showing them, he himself is aware that he kind of drifts off away, and it's all about him. And that's how the awards film to him, is that it becomes about him and he wants to flee. The very own film that he puts together and he shows at an event, which is this prisoner talking to him in an interview. We steal the weapons from, I don't remember the speech, but it feels very kind of the whole placement of the camera, and then there's this cut to himself interviewing the prisoner, and he looks
Yeah,
He does a smile, and the whole his whole name, Severio Gama, appears in the auto frame in front of
everybody
him.
claps.
And everybody claps. Mexican Association of Journalists, and he's like,
That was pretty good.
"Yes, I understood your speech. I understand you. I'm very good." It feels purposefully that Iñárritu is painting this guy has.
I agree.
Very aware of himself, and he likes it.
Yeah,
and he's using these objects of his films, these real people from difficult backgrounds, as ways of exploiting and talking about himself and how great he is. And that is the flaw. That is the most interesting thing about the film, is the conflict between the ego of the artist, wanting to reflect upon himself, and his subjects.
I think for me, Iñárritu, it probably comes from a place of. Now I was thinking about Gael Garcia Bernal talking about Amores Perros, and how at the time people criticized them for portraying Mexico in this way that is very
Raunchy.
Almost like a hellhole, like it's a terrible place. And he says, but this is happening, man. And I don't doubt that it was happening. And Mexico is a complicated place. The cartel and America is as direct relationship in things being that way. But the reality for Iñárritu probably is his breakout film was this portrayal of Mexico in this way that is very negative. This is the film that brought him to the festival,
the American marketplace of festivals.
Yeah, the American marketplace of festivals, even European. He put him in this market and allowed him to gain the career that he has now. So I would assume that that's where he's coming from in these complicated feelings. That he gained all this success initially from this very complicated portrayal of his country that then he left to go to America.
Yeah,
and that's interesting. That's I understand. That you'd feel conflicted about that. That's all for today. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and Facebook pages. Please don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, or simply give us a like. Oh my god. That's how our podcast can grow ever more groovy. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
See you next time, pinchones.